What up, what up, what up, what up? It's me, L Teddy 27.
What's good tonight? Right about the hood.
Oh dear God, I'm already eating a drink.
Look a damn mess. Just a damn mess. No means no, and yes means no.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What's good? What's up, people? What's up? It's me, L Teddy 27. I'm back for another review. New show alert, new show alert, new show alert, new show alert. We will be reviewing today Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot. The title of this episode is Sundown. Now, I had been anticipating this show for a couple weeks now. I saw the trailer, was kind of intrigued. I really like and get into the whole sci-fi thing. And after watching it, the whole sci-fi coupled with unpacking the whole Jim Crow era of these yet-to-be United States of America kind of intrigued me. I like Journey Smollett. I like, I can't remember the dude's name who plays Uncle George. I like him as an actor. And I really wanted to see where they were going to go with this. So I'm here for it. Hopefully you're here for it. Let's get right down to it. Let's get it cracking. And I anticipate great things. All right. So we start off with this dream. I'm going to start off by saying, letting you know it was a dream. Many people were kind of turned off by the first 5 minutes because it was really sci-fi. There was this war going on, there were spaceships and aliens, and then this Jackie Robinson with his baseball bat, killing the alien with the baseball bat and it's splattering into, green slime circa Men in Black or something like that. And then it coming back together and everything. It was just this whole fantastical, dream world with this black guy who was, in the war and so forth. We find out he's the main character, but he wakes up, he's on a Greyhound bus or a charter bus, leaving on his way back home. Now, this is, like I said, Jim Crow era. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they said it was 1928, but it was early 1900s. It might have been the 30s, either late 20s or 30s, somewhere around there. So, I kind of was immediately brought in because I like sci-fi stuff with aliens and stuff like that. That kind of stuff intrigues me. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, cool. And so he wakes up and he's on this charter bus. He's traveling. He's talking to this black lady. And, we get his backstory immediately. We find out he's a veteran. He was in the army, or the military. I think it was army, but I know he was in the military. And he's going back home because his dad is missing. And, at one point, they're traveling on the bus, and he's telling her about himself. And at one point, the bus kind of breaks down. And this is Jim Crow era. So he and the black lady are on the back of the bus, and the bus breaks down. So they're on the side of the road, and at some point, they bring this little truck or something for all of the people on the bus to get on the back of with their luggage. But, of course, that was only for the white people. The black people ended up having to walk, wherever they went. And so he helps out the older black lady. He carries their bags and so forth and so on. They walk. And we find out that he's from Chicago. And he's traveling home because his dad is missing. And immediately, even with his clothes on, I made note of, oh, dude got a nice body. Big, wide nose. Now, if you follow my channel, you done been to some of my Silly Saturdays. Not Silly Saturdays. Yeah, Silly Saturdays and my Sexy Sundays. Y'all know what we say about wide noses? Those people who follow my channel, you can put it in the comment section what we say about big, wide noses. Talk about that in the comment section. We're going to talk about that on the live. We'll save that for the comment section. If you don't know what it means, just ask somebody in the comment section. They'll tell you. Put the question out there in the comment section. They'll tell you. Anyway, nice, beautiful, middle of the spectrum, brown, melanated skin. But, see, I consider myself middle of the spectrum, too. I consider myself right in the middle in terms of my melanation. I feel like he's in the middle, but he's just a shade or a half shade lighter than me. Think about that. All right. So then we cut away to this man and woman in bed. They're doing husband and wife kind of stuff. He's going on a trip. Now we find out that this guy works on making he and his wife, they do this thing where they write reviews of different cities and so forth. And they really, they write a book and a guide that black people use to travel around the country so they know where to go that's safe and not safe. And he'll go different places and travel and like add to the map or add to help, update maps and say, okay, I found this road on this map. I found if you go in this area, you go in, go have to do, what the hell? Is that? Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. It was someone on the floor just bothering me. I was like, what the hell is that? Anyway, and so he, it's just like a guide, that they use it. So he does all of the traveling and brings back all his notes. And his wife writes this review. She does all of the writing and lets, you know, people know what it is to look out for and so forth while they're on the road all around the country. So, after a while, the dude, that was on the bus, his name is Tick. His real name is Atticus, but they call him Tick. And, he comes in and comes home, and the daughter is there and sees them, and she makes a noise because they are not getting it down. They are not fucking, okay? Mom and dad are not fucking. So he comes through the fire escape through the window and scares the little girl, and she's like, ah! She screams, and then she sees it's him and is so happy to see him. Come to find out that Tick is the nephew of the husband and wife. All right, so Tick's father is the is the younger brother of the husband here. All right, so he comes back, and the next thing you know, we see them at the husband's shop. Now the husband's name is George, and we'll call him Uncle George because that's Tick, who's the main character. That's his uncle. So Uncle George is at this shop, and they talk about, you know, how Tick came back to look for his dad, and his dad wrote him a letter, and they analyze the letter, and they find this city that the dad said he was going to. He thought it was called Arkham, and it was called Ardum, with a D. And so the dad starts to look through all of his, the uncle starts to look through all of his stuff and see if he can find where that is. And we find out it's in an area called Lovecraft Country up in Massachusetts. And the dad actually left town to go find his Tick's mother's ancestry, because apparently Tick's mom is dead. And so they're trying to find out about his mom's background and her family and this, that, and the third. So then we see Tick needs more investigation. He wants to find out when his father left, how he left, what were the circumstances and situations around with his dad left. So he leaves and he goes to this bar, and he's looking for the owner because his dad would go to the bar all the time. The dad would frequent the bar like damn near every day. Dad was drunk. So he was like, well, I ain't seen, so he found, some dude meets him at the bar and says, oh, you looking for the owner? Oh, he's in the back. Baby, Tick goes to the back. Owner is back there, pants around his knees, getting his dick sucked in the alley by some other dude. I was like, yes, God, bust through Chicago, bust through. A man has to get his needs met. Okay. Dude was getting his dick sucked by some other dude in the alley, and Tick interrupted. So he pulls up his pants and goes to talk to Tick and tells Tick, I haven't seen your dad in about 2 weeks. And that was the same thing the uncle kind of confirmed. You know, I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks, and that's how I knew, you know, he was kind of missing. And so Tick was kind of upset with the uncle at first at the shop, saying, you let it go 2 weeks before you knew my dad was missing. He was like, well, I didn't know, you know, sometimes you get missing sometimes, and, you know, 2 weeks could go by. And so when he confirmed with the owner that his dad had been going, he was like, I saw him leave with some white man in a nice fancy car. And so he's more intrigued, like, why is a black man in Chicago leaving with some white man and he ain't been seen in 2 weeks? So now he's getting real nervous. So we learned when Tick first went to the bar that there was a block party about to happen, because the guy that met him at the door to the bar said, hey, we're about to close because everybody's going over to the block party. Down to the block party, they have this block party, and there's this wonderful blues singer, dark-skinned black woman. Her name is Ruby. And Ruby is up there singing. Journey Smollett gets up there and starts singing with her, and they start singing together. Journey Smollett's character name is Letitia, okay? Letitia. So Letitia and Ruby talk after they get off stage, and she was like, I need somewhere to stay. We find out that's their sisters. Although they have the same mom, they don't have the same dad, because Journey Smollett is real high yellow, okay? Real mixed-ish, okay? Whereas Ruby is real chocolate and real dog. But they got the same mom and whatnot. So Letitia's looking for somewhere to stay for a few days. And she was like, girl, I know I'll have a little boarding house or whatever, but I don't know if I want you to stay with me. Girl, you got 2 days. That's all I got. Girl, you got 2 days. That's it. So you sense that there's this thing between these two sisters. What the backstory is, we'll probably, but there's a rift between them. So then Tick and his Uncle George start to have this conversation about him going to go find his dad. And so Uncle George is like, I'm gonna go with you. And you know, they were talking about where it is, and the fact that they narrowed it down to Devon County, Massachusetts. And so the uncle said, listen, I'm gonna go up there. It was time for me to go on another trip anyway. I'll go up there and so forth. So Uncle George's wife y'all know is played by Anjanou Ellis. Yes, that Anjanou Ellis, one more good Delta girl who played Mother Maddie Moss Clark in the Clark Sisters movie. Yes, she's playing Uncle George's wife, who's Tick's aunt. So, we see Tick goes home, or to his spot in Chicago, and he calls South Korea. And some lady answers the phone, sounds like she may be South Korean, and he doesn't answer. And she's saying, you know, asking if it's him, and he doesn't say anything and ends up hanging up the phone. And so I know that there's something there, and hopefully we'll get more information about that. I'm sure that probably came from the war, or when he was over there with the military in South Korea. So I'm sure that's going to play a role in this as well. But I don't think they would have gave us that part if it didn't mean something. Then we see Tick and George setting off to go out of town. Now we find out Letitia is going as well, because Letitia wants them to drop her off at her brother's house, because her sister only told her she got 2 days. So they were like, listen, Letitia was like, well, my brother's house is on the way to Massachusetts, so y'all could drop me off and on y'all way there. And they were like, okay. Tick and Letitia grew up together. They went to school together. You know, they know each other from school or whatnot, so they've been real good friends. We find out that Tick back in the day used to be a little nerdy, little scrawny, little nerdy guy. But baby, Tick done growed up. Tick got body, okay? Body. And, you know, he got some glasses, some smaller glasses. You know, still got glasses, but he doesn't wear them all the time. He wears them when he needs to read and stuff. Anyway, so they start off on this trip. And this is, first of all, black people back in what might be the late 20s, early 30s that have a car. Most black people did not own a car at that time. So that was something out of the ordinary. So when you're traveling the country, a bunch of black people with a car, white police and white people are going to look at you suspiciously. And we see that all during the trip, okay? So they're going to all these different places, and we see the segregation and the racism when they stop, you know, how they're treated. And there was one incident where, you know, these young white teenagers started making monkey gestures and stuff like that at them. And Tick has the whole attitude like, I'm not here for the racism. I'm not here for the fuck shit. I'm not tolerating it. It ain't happening, okay? But Tick also knows where he is and how to play the game. Letitia seems to be the mediator and seems to be the one that tries to keep Tick level-headed. Uncle George seemed like, at first, and this is in the beginning, like, you know, I know what this is. I know my role. I'm older. I'm just trying to stay alive. Let's keep it moving. But then we get to this place called Simmonsville. And they stopped there and because they were hungry. And so when they came into town, they drove by this fire station and you saw a bunch of white firemen. And I remember when they got ready to stop, Tick was like, well, you really think we need to stop here? Are they going to let us eat in this diner? And Letitia kind of felt the same way. And so Uncle George was like, we got money. We're citizens of these United States. They're going to let us eat here. So now he done flip. Tick is a little more cautious. Uncle George is the one that's like, we going in here. So they go in the diner. And the waiter is white. The guy sitting up there at the countertop is white. And they go sit down at the table and say, can we have some menus? And so the white guy who was sitting at the counter immediately looks at them like, and the waiter look at them like, what the fuck y'all doing here? And the guy who was at the counter, he left. The waiter then gives them some menus, but then goes to the back. He don't come out for a while. Letitia says, I got to go use the restroom. Now, when she said, I got to go use the restroom, I knew this is not going to end well. So she goes to the restroom. On her way to the restroom, she overhears white boy that was the waiter on the phone. And then we didn't get no conversation. Next thing you know, they show us George and Tick, Uncle George and Tick sitting at the table. Letitia comes running out of there like a bat out of hell. We gotta go. So they go running out. They get in the car and run out. Baby, the waiter done called the police and the firemen. And they on their way to get these black people. And they get in the car and they drive off. And now you got the fire engine with the firemen that we saw when they first came. They chasing them and shooting at them with shotguns and stuff. Down the street. And it's back and forth. And they trying to get away. And at one point, the fire truck was catching up, and they done chased them all the way out of town and everything. Meanwhile, another car ends up intercepting them, and so the other car, Tick was driving. So Tick went past the Tick them is going this way. The other car is kind of coming this way, and Tick them just made it past the other car. The other car coming behind them stops and since the fire truck is behind them as well, the fire truck ends up flipping. But it wasn't like a regular, oh, the fire truck hit that car and that's how the fire truck hit. The fire truck, say this is the other car, the fire truck came, and when it got right up on the other car, immediately it flipped in the air without even touching the other car, and flipped a couple times and flipped on its top. And I don't know if the fireman made it or not, but it was definitely some magic involved, okay? And that could nothing happened to the other car. And it was a real fancy, looked like Rolls Royce kind of car, one of the real fancy, real rich cars. It was a gray car too. We're gonna call it a Rolls Royce. It was a gray Rolls Royce. Keep that in mind. So they settle for the night at Letitia's. They get to Letitia's brother's house and they settle at the brother's house. Now then they discuss, Tick and Uncle George discuss whether or not they want to actually go there, because all of the maps that Uncle George has isn't updated. They don't have like all of the streets and everything that you should have in that area. And some people are like, I really don't know if it's safe to go there because we really would be, you know, driving blind. We don't know the terrain. None of the maps are updated with streets or whatnot. And so Tick is like, no, I need to go find my dad. George calls home. He talks to his wife. Now, I forgot to mention that before he left, his daughter gave him, when he would go out of town, his daughter would always give him a little comic book that she would draw and create, you know, for her dad to read while he's out of town. It would always be some dude, some superhero man. This time the superhero was a woman, and so she gave that to her dad to read. So at first, Uncle George calls and talks to his daughter all about the comic book and how he liked it. Then he talked to his wife. And so they talk, and he tells the wife, because the wife had always said, I want to go on one of these trips with you. I forgot to mention that when they were in bed before they started fucking. He was like, no, it's dangerous out here. So seeing how Letitia carried herself and how they got through that cave, I think that gave him the courage to say, you know what, I need to let my wife come with me. So he told her, next time I go on the trip, I'm going to let you come with me. We then see Letitia and her brother. Now, the brother is dark-skinned like her sister, Ruby. And so the brother and her are arguing about the fact that the brother sent her money so she could come home to come see, to come to her mama's funeral. She never made it home. And so the brother is going in on her. They're going back and forth arguing with each other like, you know, how she ain't shit and how, you know, she'll do right by the money he sends her and she's doing other things with the money. And she was like, I'm not doing nothing bad with the money. I'm doing good stuff with the money. And he was like, I ain't trying to hear. You ain't even make it to mom. Phew. Baby, he was real upset. So the argument was getting really contentious. So then we see Tick and George, because they're trying to get their minds off of that whole argument that seems to be getting worse and worse by the minute. They talk about Uncle George and Tick's dad. Now, that's where we find out that Uncle George is Tick's dad's older brother. Tick's dad's name is Montrose. And Uncle George is the oldest brother. Montrose was the younger brother. He was always little. And so Uncle George says that he wishes he protected his dad more when he was young. Because his dad wasn't that good of a father, and his dad had been through a lot growing up, and so when he grew up, he had a lot going on, and he wasn't that great of a father. And Uncle George says, I might be part of the reason for that, because how we grew up, your father had to endure a lot, and you just don't know, and I didn't protect him as much as I could have. And so Tick was like, well, I wish you would have protected me. You ain't seen how, you don't seem to be, you know, talking about how you should have protected me when I was growing up from that bastard, because he was doing me wrong and beating me down all the time. You weren't trying to protect me, so what about that? So I was like, oh, we probably gonna find out more about that when we meet the dad. So then they finally make it the next day. We see that Letitia said, I ain't staying here with my brother, because that fight got too bad. So she decides to go with George and Tick. So they finally make it to Massachusetts to Devon County. Just like Uncle George say, they get lost. They can't find the road. They get lost on this road. They've been riding around all day. Now, they stop on the side of the road. Tick, I think, had to use the bathroom or something. They stopped on the side of the road for something. I can't remember. And so Tick goes off into the woods and says, I don't remember if he was going to go use the restroom or what. But Tick turns around and the police drove behind the car where Uncle George is. And we had found out earlier that Uncle George got a bad knee. Uncle George had said that earlier. He got a bad knee. And so Tick looks, and Tick goes back over there because the police have driven up the sheriff. And the sheriff say, y'all know this is a sundown town. And so if you don't know what that means that blacks are not allowed to be out in that town after sundown, or by law you could be lynched or murdered. I remember my grandmother telling me stories of Miami when she was a young girl, and she said on Miami Beach, by law you could not be on Miami Beach after sundown unless you had papers or about where you worked and why you were on Miami Beach after sundown, because blacks were only allowed in certain areas of Miami at that time. So and so this is a smaller town, so I can imagine he was like, you could be lynched. And so he was like, you only got like 9 minutes to make it out of town. And so remember, they don't know the roads, they don't know where to go. So he was like, so Uncle George was like, we go back down this other area and we go back the way we can, we'll make it out of Devon County. So he was like, yeah, you probably will. But he was like, how you know I'm gonna let you make a U-turn? And so the racist white cop says, well, you need to ask me if I can make a U-turn. He made him ask it in a way, said, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but I remember he said, can a little nigger like me be allowed to make this U-turn? Something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it was blatantly demeaning, humiliating, racist, all of that stuff. And so you could see Tick biting his tongue and like, and so he says it. And he was like, all right, I'll let you go. So he lets him go. He makes the U-turn to go. So they drive off real fast. And so Letitia's like, you need to drive fast. He was like, no. Because if I drive past the speed limit, he's going to pull me over. And then we really going to be here for it. So then they look behind them. And who's behind them? The sheriff. And the sheriff starts ramming them from the behind and everything. It was real bad. And so the suspense and everything is ticking because Uncle George keeps telling them how much time we got. We got 3 minutes. We got 4 minutes. And they got to make it past this line. It was like, I think it was a railroad track. I don't know. And so they barely made it. Just barely with seconds to spare. They drive into the next county, get like half a mile into the next county, police waiting for them there. And when they get to the police, who's waiting for them with the other police? The same sheriff from the Devon County. So they was like, they knew it was over. So they on the ground, laid out, you know what I'm saying, probably gonna be arrested and so forth. They put them on the ground, handcuffed and so forth. By this time it's night. Sun is down. So they got like 4 officers, and then while they're on the ground, they're in the middle of the woods. They start hearing these noises, and they were like, so the police are like, the fuck is these noises? Baby, out of nowhere, these monsters come out. These like monster type creatures just come out of the woods and starts attacking them. And so it kills one of the police officers point blank, and then it bites one of the other ones. And so they all start running. Remember, Uncle George can't run because he got a bad knee. So Tick and Letitia and 2 of the officers make it to this abandoned building. One of the officers, his whole arm is bit open. The other officer is okay, but Tick is like, I need to go get Uncle George. I need to go get Uncle George. And so some kind of way, I don't remember, they figure out that the monsters don't react well to light. Like they're scared of light, and so light scares them. And so the police won't let them go. He was like, you ain't going nowhere. He was like, I got to go get my uncle. And so Tick was like, let me go. And so the officer was like, because you might get some ideas. You're a little too big for us. She gonna go. And she was like, I got this. I was in track. I can run. So she got to go. So Letitia goes. She goes out there running for the to get to the car. Mind you, she got to run through the woods with all the monsters. Monsters chasing her. Meanwhile, inside the abandoned house, the officer that got bit started like doing some stuff and morphs into a monster himself because he had got bitten. And so now he turns into a monster. So they got to shoot him. So they shoot him because he eats the other cop. It was a whole big thing. I was here for it. I was here for all of it. It was real dramatic. It was real extra. So he turns into this big monster. He then eats, I think he eats or kills the other cop. And so what ends up happening is Letitia had finally made it to the car. She put Uncle George in the car, almost got ate by the monsters herself, and shines the light on them. And so the monsters scatter away, and then she drives through the front door of the house. And so they know they're not gonna make it. Like they got to stay there until morning. So it was this big thing. So all of the monsters are gathering around the house. So what they do is they find these flares. They keep the car lights on and they sleep. They lay in front of the car lights. But before they did that, they put these big red flares all around in front of the house because it's the light and it's going to help keep them away. At a certain point during the night where all of the monsters, they were still at bay a little bit, but they were still gathered. there was this big, like, loud noise, and it made all of the monsters go away. The monsters, some strange noise, and it made all of the monsters scattered away, and they had barely escaped. And so you had this wonderful, like, 10-minute scene that I just described of monsters and suspense and people getting killed and blood and gore and, you know, you not knowing whether they were going to make it. That coupled with the whole, you not knowing that these black people going to make it out from being lynched by white people in Jim Crow America. And when you got both of them, it was a beautiful mix. A beautiful mix. Great television here. And so the next day, because the car is messed up. The car ain't no good, okay? Car got messed up when it ran through the house. They end up having to walk to this city called Arnhem. So they get to Arnhem and they see, the first thing they see is this big house. In the driveway of the big house, what is there? Remember I told you that gray Rolls Royce that helped them out earlier? The gray Rolls Royce is there. Now I didn't tell y'all Tick's last name is Freeman, and so is Uncle George's last name Freeman. So they knock on the door. Some pasty white man answered the door. Now back when they got help, there was a white lady that was driving that car. Now it's a white man at the door to this house where the car is. And he says, Mr. Freeman, because Tick knocked on the door. Mr. Freeman, we've been expecting you. Welcome home. And it goes off from there. And I was like, wait a minute. What? Is the dad there? Is this where his mom comes from? Like, I have so many questions. Are they the reason why that noise happened that made the monsters go away? There's so many questions. And they left me salivating for more. I want to see, because this is still Jim Crow America, the interaction between these black people and these white people. I want to know where's the dad, how this connects to the mom. Where the hell are these monsters coming from? Now, they mentioned vampires in the show, but they didn't quite look like vampires, but I don't know. They look like this monster because one of them had like eyes all over its body and stuff. I was really intrigued and I'm salivating. Now, I did watch it in real time when it came on Sunday night, but actually, no, I watched it later Sunday night when I got home. But it was Sunday night still, and I'm just able to get now because I wanted to take some time to watch it again so that I could see some things that I might have missed. Let me know what y'all think. Go check it out if you can. If you need a way to watch it for free, let me know. Hit me up with a DM on my Instagram or my Twitter, and I'll show you how you can watch it for free if you don't have HBO. But until next week, our next review of this, that's all I got for y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely. I'm out.